Man, what is happening, my YouTube family? It is your boy B New coming at you on this Tuesday morning after a great night in the association yet again last night. As you all know, the Lakers are off for 2 days, so they finally get a little bit of rest they needed. It seemed like they was playing every other night for a minute, so they getting 2 days of rest, and hopefully Andre Drummond in the meantime will be able to have passed his physical and be able to suit up, to lace them up tomorrow night when the Lakers take on the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, speaking of the Milwaukee Bucks were in action last night against the Los Angeles Clippers, and I got a real key takeaway from that game. And I watched some of it, but not all of it. I had a lot of things going on, but did go back and check out the box score and look at a few of the highlights of the parts that I did miss. But what kind of stood out to me is that Luke Kennard. I mean, every time I watch the Clippers, Luke Kennard is really hooping. Luke Kennard is hooping. The boy be on fire like somehow somebody just like Bob McAdoo or somebody just took control of his body. Like, what's that movie with Bow Wow or something? Like, he cannot miss. The boy get on fire, look like the old school NBA jams where the nets is just burning up every time he shoots it. So Luke Kennard does his thing. And Milwaukee was close. Actually, I want to say Milwaukee, from when I was watching after the first quarter, had a 10 or 12 point lead, and it looked like Milwaukee was going to have their way. But as we all know, Paul George did not play last night. Paul George sat out. And with Paul George sitting out, they still won, and won handedly. So what I'm starting to wonder is, Paul George, is he really a necessary piece for the Clippers? Because I'm just going to be honest with you, he was a big reason why they folded against Denver. And especially his leadership in the locker room kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way by what he was saying. And a lot of times actions speak louder than words. You could say it with your mouth, but you also got to say it with your actions. You know what I'm saying? You got that's even in any facet of life, whether it's your boss at work, whether you as a parent, or if I'm telling you to do one thing and I'm doing the other, it's not gonna work. If I'm telling you to play your hardest and I'm shooting balls off the side of the backboard, if I dub myself and name myself playoff P, but then I disappear in the playoffs, you're not going to gain a lot of respect from your teammates. And what I noticed with Paul George being out last night, it seemed like they had a fluidity to their offense, where you saw the ball just moved around a lot more. The ball moved around a lot more. It wasn't as much ISO ball, which, the Clippers, Lou is their coach. So we know he's not the greatest of offensive minds. He's more predicated on the defensive end of the floor, in my humble opinion. But I just feel like the Clippers are really stepping their game up as of late. I think they won 4 or 5 in a row, so they are starting to look good. And with LeBron James and Anthony Davis being out, before it's all said and done, the Clippers could end up being that number 1 seed in the West. Now, with that being said, just remember there is a play-in tournament this year. So whatever team end up getting that 8th spot off winning that play-in tournament, I hate to tell you all this, but this is something new. So there's a thing called momentum. And when you out here playing and scratching and clawing, like win or go home situations, so that's going to give, to me, the 8th seed somewhat of an advantage, because they're going to have 2 games that they're going to have to win in order to secure that spot. And those 2 games is do or die, win or go home. So whatever momentum they build up, they're going to really be feeling themselves. So if you take a look around, which team could be that 8th spot, who might give the Clippers some problems too. So you just never know. It could be a team like Dallas. Who knows? Denver could fall down to the 8th. I don't doubt it. It could be a scrappy team like San Antonio, who could cause some matchup problems for the Clippers. It could be Memphis Grizzlies with Ja Morant. I think that could cause a few matchup problems for the Clippers if they were fully healthy. But I'm telling you what, Valanciunas would definitely cause some matchup problems. Not saying Serge Ibaka cannot do his thing, but they did add JaVale McGee. So I think they could handle the Grizzlies in the first round, but I think the Grizzlies would give them somewhat of a run for their money. But just seeing the Clippers execute last night, especially whenever it got close, it seemed like they hit all these threes. And, you know, if you pay close attention, the Clippers are shooting the three ball at a very high rate and a very high percentage. But then you look at a team like Milwaukee, they're not just the best team at running people off the three-point line. And that's what people fail to recognize all the time. Everybody out here always talking about the Nets and their offensive power and all this power. Listen, I understand all of that, but I'm going to keep telling y'all this in sports. In sports, I don't care if it's football. I don't care if it's basketball. I don't care if it's soccer, football americano. I don't care if it's hockey. If you got a damn good goalie, you got a great chance of winning because you're keeping that other team from scoring. Then you just got to get yours when you can. The same thing with football. We remember those great Baltimore Ravens teams. We remember the 85 Chicago Bears. And please name one team. Somebody help me. Please name one team that was in the NBA that won a championship without being great on the defensive side of the ball. All of those Miami Heat teams, they were more predicated on the defensive side of the ball. You look back and say, well, they had D-Wade, they had LeBron James. Their focus was on the defensive end because they know if they play hard defense, then what's going to happen? They're going to create turnovers, which is going to lead to fast breaks, and fast breaks lead to easy points. And when you're in the association going up against the stiffest competition in the world, then easy points is something that you definitely need. Because when you get into a half-court set, especially against a great defensive team, it's not going to be a lot of opportunity for points. Now, I know points are inflated right now in this era because of the shot clock resetting to 14, which is creating a whole lot more possessions, which I think is going to inflate the numbers, especially as you see in the coming years. So just always remember, especially in football and basketball, there's rule changes that you have to think about. You know, like people say, certain teams back in the 70s, quarterbacks went, man, listen, it wasn't even pass interference back then. You could just knock a receiver on their ass before the ball even got there. But yet you still had 1,000-yard receivers. Man, come on now. Now let's be serious right now. Things have changed. They inflate numbers. So don't say greatness. Now understand athletes evolve and get better. So, you know, I'm not one of those old heads who's sitting up here telling you all the 90s players are better. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you the 90s players could do what the 2000s players could do, what the players nowadays could do. Because nowadays you have to have a lot higher skill set as far as being able to handle the ball, being able to shoot the ball, being able to spread the floor. You know, a lot of big men back then, they played with their back to the basket. Even point guards would play with their back to the basket, waiting for somebody to cut, waiting to see who they can get posted up. So it's not the same skill set. But anyway, I'm not trying to get off the subject. This main subject from what I'm starting off talking about is the Los Angeles Clippers and them looking good. So the Lakers are going to be taking on the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow. So Bucks to get a night off. They got a chance to stay in LA. I'm just telling you right now, when you're in LA, you might get out and have a little bit more opportunity to do a few more things that when you on the road than, let's say, if you on the road in Memphis or New Orleans, which, you know, New Orleans, you can find some things to get into. You can find some things to get into everywhere. But when you're in Los Angeles, I mean, let's just hope they got some rest. It's not a lot of times for shooting rounds, but let's just see what Milwaukee will bring to LA tomorrow night. And I'm really hoping that Drummond will be able to lace it up tomorrow night, and we can see how that plays out. And I will, of course, be there to watch that game in its entirety and give you my full analysis on how I think he plays. And I just see a lot of people saying, you know, especially yesterday in the comments, and a lot of people on TV and all these different pundits just saying that Andre Drummond is not that great of a pickup. And I even heard people say that he could be detrimental, you know, as far as the small ball lineup is concerned. Well, the Lakers didn't get him for small ball lineup. Y'all have to realize everything is all about matchups. It's all about matchups. Just like you saw last year against Houston. When Houston decided to go small ball, Did Dwight Howard play? Did JaVale McGee really play? They went small ball with him, and they ran him out the gym, and it took them a minute to adjust. I want to say they swept him, but it still took them a minute to adjust during the game to how they wanted to do it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if you're talking about small ball, I still will take the Lakers small ball lineup when fully healthy over the Nets small ball lineup, or Philly small ball lineup. The thing is, Philly is a dangerous team because Joel Embiid can stretch the floor, and he can get up and down the floor too. So I wouldn't really see them trying to go small against anybody. If another team decided to go small against them, they're not going to take out their best player. So that's going to be very interesting if it is Philly. And to be honest, I think Philly would actually give the Lakers the most problems in the finals just because of the way they match up, with the Lakers, and even with Andre Drummond, which I think Andre Drummond will be more than capable of handling himself in the paint. But let's just be honest, at Joel Embiid, he is not. And as you can see against their one-on-one matchups the past, 5-6 years in the league, usually Joel Embiid is going to win that matchup 9 out of 10 times. But that's not to say that Philly would still win the game, because I think the Lakers still would have more depth and still could do a lot of things that could take Philly out the game. But that's a long ways away, so we won't even speculate on that. What's still up in the air right now, everybody, is Kevin Durant. Like, what do you all feel about Kevin Durant still being out all of this time? I mean, he's missing a lot of time. I want to say that's 19 games in a row now that he has not played, even all through the All-Star break. It happened right after that, and you would think, oh, sore hamstring. But at the end of the day, I'm starting to wonder if it's anything else. If it's something that's more to do with that calf and that Achilles, even though the hamstring is a lot higher. So, I mean, the hamstring is something that's very delicate, and you can only heal it, with rest from having to, put stress and pressure on it. So, I don't know if maybe it's a tear, and they're just not letting on that it was an actual tear instead of just a pull or a strain. And maybe they're just not worried about building any continuity on defense. But I did want to touch on this. So, James Harden, stated he was the MVP the other day. And last night, he looked like he was again last night. I'm just going to be honest. James Harden looked like he was the MVP last night, because I'm going to say a lot of those shots that they got off on three, like Kyrie Irving, a lot of his shots was uncontested. The defense was terrible. But some of those shots on Harden, they was very much contested, even doubled on some of them. And James Harden is shooting lights out. And when James Harden gets going downhill, he's a lot stronger than what people think. He can absorb the contact and still finish at the rim. He's excellent at finding other players. I mean, I hate to say this, y'all, but James Harden is really winning me over. Is probably being in the top 3 players in the league. I mean, at this point, I would take a James Harden over Giannis. Hell, I might take a James Harden over Kevin Durant. Hell, Kevin Durant can't stay healthy. Kevin Durant hasn't been healthy in years. He even had a damn COVID break forever, which I know he's coming off an Achilles, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, he hadn't been available to play a whole lot. So, to me, that would be a stain against his legacy. And I did see, I saw something, I want to say, I don't know if it was on Twitter or what, how Kevin Durant was saying, oh, I can never do anything on my own anymore, because fans was giving him hell about having an MVP candidate on his team and a great Olympian and NBA champion on this team, and Kyrie Irving. And they like, well, what does he really contribute to the team if you can basically sit out damn near half the season and they can still, make a run at the championship without you? And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because it could have been one of those fake memes, and I don't believe in doing fake news on this channel, so I don't want to make it official. But I want to say somebody had shared it. I don't know if it was on Facebook or Instagram, I saw it or whatever, but somebody had shared that Tom Brady replied to his tweet and said, "That's right, Kevin, it's a team sport," which I don't know if he said that or not. But if he did, then that make Tom Brady a boss. Don't sound like anything he would say, but that's what I keep trying to tell everybody. It is a team sport regardless. So if it's a team sport, you cannot win it on your own. And when I say it'll put a stain on his legacy, I'm not contradicting myself. I'm just saying in the eyes of fans and the way history will be written, you know. But who knows? Because by the time you look back 15 years later and you look back at something, you have a totally different perspective on it. Nobody remembers Michael Jordan for his failures. Everybody only remember the 6 years in the 6-0. Nobody remember him getting spanked, you know, all through the 80s, never beating Larry Bird in the playoffs, you know, the Washington Wizards years, you know, the time he got beat by Orlando with Penny, and Shaq smacked him up real good. And I know everybody gonna say, well, he wasn't back to full form. Look, you dropped 50. You played, what, 15, 16, 17 games. I'm pretty sure you was in game shape. You didn't just stop playing baseball and all of a sudden say, oh, let me run on the court. And so you was doing conditioning, and I don't want to hear any excuse. You was running through other teams up until you ran into the Orlando Magic. So what happened was, oh, do y'all remember the Chicago Bulls didn't have Dennis Rodman when they lost to the Magic in the playoffs? They didn't have Dennis Rodman, so they didn't have anybody to go up against the likes of a Shaquille O'Neal. But then the next year, or Horace Grant for that fact. But then the next year, you went and added Dennis Rodman, so now you got Dennis Rodman to take care of Shaq and Horace Grant in the paint, and then Hope Grant got hurt the first game and then play the rest of the series. But people leave that out because I think if Hope Grant was truly healthy, somebody would have had to, Rodman would have had to get on him instead of giving Shaq his problems. But at the end of the day, my point is, it takes a team to win a championship. So I don't want to sit up here and shit on anybody's legacy and say that they're not a good player, because Kevin Durant is a hell of a good player. He's an excellent player, and I have him in my top 10. But I don't know if he will continue to remain in my top 10 only because he just cannot seem to get healthy. And I don't think that's to any detriment of his own. You know, sometimes it's just the breaks. You know what I mean? Like, he's a very stony dude. That's the way he was built. You know, LeBron James work out and does all these things to make his body better. I don't know how much working out Kevin Durant does. I mean, if he try to get on the bench press, shit, put up 140, man, he might damn crush his rib cage. He better have a damn good spotter. No, I'm just messing with you, man. KD, man, it's all love, brother. But I'm still just gonna say, I'm still gonna predict the Brooklyn Nets, because I think James Harden is playing at such a high damn level right now. I'm just gonna be real with you. Brooklyn keep rolling, man. They done won what, 18, 19 out of 21 to 22. They obviously don't need Kevin Durant. So Brooklyn gonna keep rolling. I think they can reach the finals without Kevin Durant. And I want to ask y'all this. I want to ask y'all this right here. This is what I want to ask y'all. If LeBron James can run through the East, with George Hill and hell, whoever the hell that else was on the team in 17, 18, and whenever that was, if he can run through the East with that, then Brooklyn should easily be able, Kyrie and James Harden should easily be able to go through the East as the tandem of two superstars. So we shall see how that all works out. But I just want to say peace and much love to everybody that I'm down with. Peace and much love to everybody I clown with. Peace and much love to anybody that's watching who is a hater, you know, anybody else. So I just want to give much love. So positive vibrations to everybody. I have to take care of some business and make some money moves and get the bag. So as always, right on to the real, and much love to the haters. I'm out.